Welcome back to Steel City Roundtable, folks. Mark Kneebone, your annoying host. Again, I am here with a gentleman. His name is John Lucas. John and I met through social media probably about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. He is a EMT locally here in Pittsburgh, and he is also a fellow warrior in the battle of recovery over everything that fucks us up. So, John, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is John Lucas. I'm from I was born and raised in Crafton, same town as Bill Cower's parents, and actually Bill Cower himself. Now I live in Upper St. Clair in the South Hills. Work for a local EMS service down there. I've been doing EMS for too many years. I think I'm going into my 18th year starting in January. But we as we connected through the conversations, we definitely have been through a lot of the same struggles. We both kind of been down the road of addiction with alcohol, the PTSD aspect, because our jobs suck. Let's just face it. I mean, there's no way around it. We suck at keeping track of ourselves. And I think what we're doing or how we've talked, we both agree there's nothing being done on our aspect. Yes, they're helping the military. They're trying to do things for the military. But when it comes to the people that are live in the streets, dealing with it day to day, there's nothing. And
I was going to take this in a completely different direction, but you just screwed everything up. So, why did you reach out to me? Let's start there.
Okay. Actually, we were both on the same podcast. The Weight We
Carry with Bart. Yep.
Yeah. We both, kind of discussed our lives, I guess you could say. We let a sneak peek into our lives, and then I came across your podcast, and I was like, you know what, this dude I want to reach out and talk to. I think we'd have a good conversation. And we've been trying to make this work now for the better part of probably close to 2 months, and we actually, once we got what we needed to get done with the initial conversation of why do you want to be on the podcast, and you were just like, bro, you have to come on the show.
I mean, the way I do things here is we have a brief conversation and we talk about a couple things, but you can see my notes. It's nothing, because we don't need that. I just go by the seat of my pants. I genuinely want to hear your story because, me being former law enforcement, you being active as a first responder, you and I both know that the departments are failing miserably.
Oh, yeah.
In what they're doing to handle mental health and addiction. They're just failing miserably.
Absolutely. So a little bit of background of some of the struggle that I went through was I reached out to a boss of mine probably, I would say this is the better part of 2.5 years ago. I reached out and said, hey, look, I'm struggling. I'm really struggling. I was doing a lot of excessive drinking. And I said, hey, I need help. And we had a very long conversation. We actually drove around in his car, just him and I. So this way, nobody was around us. There was no ears, nothing. Had a great conversation. We got back to the station. He put me in a room and said, call this person. And I said, okay, it's probably going to be like the EAP, which, EAP, you're talking to a social worker that you're
no clue.
Right. You're like,
no clue.
They don't understand what we do. They don't understand that our job is very trauma based. Like, you see a lot of the trauma of life, death, sick people, injured people. You see it all. And it's a huge mental trauma to you. And they don't understand that. So I was like, okay, who am I calling? Well, it happened to not be the EAP, which was immensely helpful. It was actually through the crisis or the CISM team that they have. And I got to talk to somebody who actually knows what the hell we're dealing with or what we're doing. So we had a great conversation for, probably 2 hours. And they sent me to talk to a therapist who actually specializes in our field. One therapist in the 2 million people that live in Allegheny County that actually understands us because she came from the field. Got her therapy license, used to be involved in the field, families involved in the field, so they understand. Had a great couple conversations with them, and I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for that, I guarantee I wouldn't still be sitting here right now.
I mean, I think you got lucky because a lot of times when I was reaching out to therapists who said they specialized in first responders and addiction, you go there and you're expecting one thing. You're expecting someone to relate to you. You're expecting someone to, understand what you're feeling. And instead, what I was getting is these blowhards that thought they knew everything
Mm-hmm.
and talked down to me like, we dealt with this and you deal with this, but you need to find a way to do this. You need to find it. I'm like, listen, like, this is me.
Right.
I am broken inside. I have problems. I'm making bad decisions. I wanted to end my life. Like, fix this.
Right.
And as well as I do is former alcoholic, PTSD. We can manipulate anybody.
Oh, yeah.
If we want to make a therapist think we're this way, we're going to make them think we're this way.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to say what they need to hear, say, leave us alone, and we're going to use that against them, to dictate the conversation. Because guess what, folks? First responders like to dictate everything. We like to control everything. So you got lucky.
Yes.
You dealt with somebody who was relatable,
right?
Not judgmental.
Yeah. She literally let me, I walked in, and when I tell you I sat down on her couch and she started with a blank sheet of paper, and I kept hearing her flip the page. I'm like, well, this isn't going to be good. Like, we're going to be done with this. And she's going to be like, you need to go to the funny farm. But no, she sat down. She listened to what I had to say. She let me just basically trauma dump, as we like to call it. I exposed everything, and I didn't have a problem with it. I've actually felt comfortable. When you walk into like a therapist's office, you're like, I like, this is weird.
It's like white coat fever when you go for a physical.
Right. You're like, oh man, my blood pressure's up, my pulse rate's up. They're gonna be like, oh, you got high blood pressure. You got, you need to get on these meds. And you're like, no, I just don't like doctor's offices. But I walked in her office and I literally felt like I walked in here.
Yeah.
Like, it was comfortable. Like, she met me, handshake. Hey, how you doing? BS conversation. And then she's like, all right, let's talk. Okay. You talk. You just tell me what you want me to know. Gladly. I will tell you whatever you want me to know and what you don't want to know.
I mean, that's the key. Honestly, the number one thing that you're going to find in a law enforcement, paramedic, fireman, veteran is that we are not willing to talk.
No.
We are not willing to open up about the things that are destroying us inside because we cannot, let me rephrase that. We don't want to be seen as weak.
Right.
We don't want to be seen as ineffective. We want to have the trust of the people to the right and to the left of us. And if we say, I need help,
right,
then people are like, you get that feeling like they're like, oh, is he okay today?
Mm-hmm.
And like when I got sober the first time in 2017, my boss was watching me.
Yeah.
Like, my partners were watching me. Like, everybody knew I was an alcoholic because I did the same thing you did. I went to my boss and said, I have a problem. I need to get some help, and lo and behold, I was out for another 6 years after that because I didn't get sober.
Right.
Because my department, their insurance said I wasn't sick enough to get the full treatment. So they ended my treatment at 2 weeks.
Mine was more or less, he took me, I was supposed to work a 24-hour shift that day. And it was, let's have this conversation. Hey, we're not putting you back out on the street. You're going to go sit at, what was it? It was National Night Out night. So the big party celebration for, police, fire, EMS, everybody goes and just shows off their toys. I went and sat with one of my best friends at that. We talked about playing video games. Like, he had no clue what was going on, and I wanted to keep it that way. I wanted to keep from where you're coming from with the whole, you didn't want your coworkers looked at you sideways afterwards. I didn't want any coworker to know. There was a grand total of 4 people that knew what was going on. My partner for the day, my direct supervisor for the day, my boss, and myself. That was the 4 people that knew what was going on. Nobody else knew anything. They just, hey, he's sick. He's not feeling good. We're taking care of him right now. And just, they made it hush hush. I wanted it that way because then I felt more comfortable to say, yeah, I have a problem. Yeah, there's something going on here.
And there's something people don't understand is that FMLA is there for a reason.
Right.
You don't have to tell your boss shit.
No.
You got to say, I have a medical reason I need to have off. You get 12 weeks of federal leave, a minimum of 12 weeks guaranteed, and you still get paid.
Yeah.
And you just go through your third party, like, you go through your third party administrator for the treatment.
Right.
But, me being me and being like, oh, I just got to tell everybody everything.
Right.
I was like, hey, I got a problem. I could have easily not told anybody and just went and came back. So that's always an option if you don't want to talk to your direct boss and tell him, hey, I'm a drunk.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, it's okay.
But that's honestly the biggest thing is people need to step up and say, I have a problem, but they need to do it the right way, not step up and make it known to the world.
Is there truly a right way to do it, though?
I think the first step is saying, I have a problem.
The first day is talking,
The first day, saying it to
sharing.
yourself.
Yeah.
Saying it to
Admitting and
yourself.
being self-aware. I
Right.
agree 100%.
But how many of us don't want to do that? How many of us don't want to say, I have a problem? Because the same mentality you and I both have. We don't want to be looked at as weak. We don't want to be looked at as a problem. We want to be ourselves, but you can only fake being yourself so much.
I mean, another thing that gets in the way is the false impression that your life is okay because you have a decent car, you have a good job, you have a house, you're married, you have all the things you've always wanted, but the mental health is suffering and internally you're suffering. And I think that's one of the hardest things in the world. It literally takes an act of God to, and I'm not the most religious person, but it takes an act of God to say, okay, I am tired of going down this same fucking road all the time. Like, why can't I make a right? And why do I keep going left? And there's something inside of us
Right.
that says, just keep going the way you're going. It's going to get better.
Yeah. It's I guess you could say it's a false sense of, a false sense of really the mentality of thinking that we're going to be okay, that we're going to be able to handle this on our own. And I mean, I went through it very early in life. I was 12 when I had my first real bad trauma experience. I lost my father. And that was probably the first real test of life. I mean, my brother was getting ready to move out of the house. He was getting married. So it was like, there was the first trigger, got help, got on the right path. You know, there was a lot of things when you talk about like being an adolescent or being a teenager, there's a lot of avenues for help out there. The Caring Foundation through Highmark, absolutely phenomenal. That's where I went, 2 years. Fantastic. I was able to talk to people my age. It wasn't like going to a room and going, oh, cool, I'm here to see a therapist. Yeah, I did see the therapist part, but like we did other things other than just let's talk about your problems or let's talk about what's going on. No, we actually did activities, we did things, got better with life. And then, you know, I was like, no, I'm going to follow the family's footsteps and let's go into public safety. Got into public safety and was like, okay, cool. You know, this is where I'm at. This is my life. You know, this is what I want to do. This is my calling. And the problem with that is when you work in EMS, EMS doesn't pay worth a damn. I mean, that's just how you have to look at it. There's no,
unless you get full time with like the city of Pittsburgh,
right,
or
where you can make, you know, $100,000 a year, but you're never home because you're always at work, but you're only working one job. Back then, EMS didn't pay anything outside of the city of Pittsburgh, and the city of Pittsburgh was really the cat's where it was at. You know, you had the city, Baldwin, Mertz, which Medical Rescue Team South, they had fantastic pay rates. So everybody went to work there, but they were hard to get into. Or you had to live in the city, and well, let's face it, nobody wants to do that.
As you
But
can see, I live in Monroeville now.
you know, but when you think about it, I mean, those were the only three places that really paid, or Penn Hills, and you had to live in Penn Hills. And that back then they didn't have EMTs on their payroll; they only had paramedics. So if you weren't a paramedic, you didn't make money. Same with the city of Pittsburgh; they didn't have EMTs. Now they do.
Mhm.
But you know, so those you were really limited to three places, or I'm sorry, two places at that point. And they were both in the South Hills, both very competitive to get into. You would apply, and there might be 50 or 60 people for one job.
Mhm.
You know, so it's not like where it was a city EMS or, you know, city police for that matter, where there's 200 of you applying for 30 jobs. You know, there's a little bit more of a probability of you getting that job.
Yeah.
So I was working 4 or 5 EMS jobs. I'd leave my house on a Monday morning. I'd come home on a Friday afternoon. That was when I'd get home. So my trauma was I never had the outlet. I never had it. It just built. It just kept going and going and going. You know, hey, I'd go out I get home. Cool, I'm changing. Where are we going to the bar? That wasn't. Hey, let's have dinner with my mom. Okay, I'm going to the bar. See ya. And by Sunday, okay, let's repeat this.
I mean, that's the culture. You know, that's the culture in veterans and first responders is, you know, we don't want to deal with things. We compartmentalize, we push it down, we avoid it. And then when we finally touch on it, it's while we're having drinks at the bar with people that might have been on the same call. Or, you know, like I used to go to Finnegan's Wake down on the north side.
Okay.
And I would be there with paramedics, firemen, and cops. And we would just get blasted every night and talk about shit. And that was my therapy.
We have a couple spots we go to still. But at the same time, you know, now it's everybody's let's go for a couple of drinks. Let's not go kill 6 bottles of beer, or I'm sorry, not beer, but 6 bottles
Anything.
of liquor. Let's not go do that. Let's just go out. We'll have a couple of drinks. We'll BS. We'll have dinner. So like we make it now. It's not necessarily let's go out and get blitzed.
See, I don't have that gene.
See,
I don't have that gene in me to go have 1 or 2 drinks. It's like I have 1 drink and I'm like, okay, break out the shots. Let's go. Let's
nah,
get to the bottom of that one and start another one.
I see. I mean, being Irish, you would think I wouldn't have that filter
I'm
either.
Polish.
See,
Yeah.
you know,
Same boat.
so I
Same boat,
get it.
different direction.
I get it, but no, it's. I mean, I'm able to literally just I can go out, have a couple drinks now, go to a baseball game, have a couple. I mean, obviously, baseball game, unless you have a small mortgage out, you're not really getting more than 2 or 3 drinks at a baseball
Yeah.
game. But no, well, I go to a lot of the different sporting events now, and it's like, yeah, I can go out and have a couple drinks and not be concerned, but I also surrounded myself with people that keep me grounded, that won't let me get to that point because they know where I came from, and those are the people that are like, we always say that circle's small. And my circle is extremely small, probably the size of a quarter. There's about 4 people in it, and
Mhm.
those 4 people, if I won't go out unless I'm with them because they know if I start, there's not going to be a stop if I'm out with other people, and I don't want to go. I've come too far in recovery and too far in getting back to where I wanted to be, 15 years ago.
So let me ask you a question. Did you ever try AA?
No,
Okay. So this is a good question for you. If you were in your position where you were when you got sober, got clean, dealt with your shit, if someone said, hey, let's go to an AA meeting, how would you feel about going to an AA meeting like in the middle of Northside? Be honest, like don't bullshit me. I'll tell you how I feel. I was like, fuck that. I'm
I
not going there because I don't want some guy to recognize me and cause shit for me
see.
because I'm in this meeting and I'm saying I'm a drunk.
I wouldn't be concerned about the recognition of, especially if it obviously wouldn't be in an area where I'm from. So that would be the first thing I would tell them.
But that's what I'm saying. Like an area, let's just change an area you're from that you like know people in that area. Because think of it this way: you work as a city cop. The city is your area.
Right.
You could get somebody from Penn Hills. You could catch them in Northside for a drug bust, and then see them at a meeting at the Anala Club on the West End.
Right.
Like the chances of seeing somebody that you've dealt with, and also, for me, it was can I tell these people what I'm really thinking?
Yeah, it wouldn't work for me. I would, and the reason why it wouldn't work for me is just because I am too, like doing this now, doing podcasts and everything. I can do it now, but 15 years ago, I would have looked at you like you're crazy. I won't. Nope. I won't talk to people. Like I won't even talk to family. My brother was probably the first one to get me to open up, and that came after a very very lengthy period of him and I not talking. And we amended that and we started having more of a connection. And if it wasn't for him kind of grounding me a little bit and, basically threatening to kick the shit out of me and, look, we're relatives. I will literally end your life right now if you don't knock this off. Okay. And then getting that circle down to, hey, let's go out party every weekend to, hey, let's go to like watch a baseball game in my house. Let's go smoke a cigar. Okay, I got really big into smoking cigars. To me, that's more of an outlet because it takes an hour and a half to smoke a cigar compared to it takes me an hour and I can drink a case of beer.
Yeah.
Well, I can't anymore now that I've lost some weight, but
Because there's 2 things I'm trying to get at here. Would you feel comfortable talking to people that aren't in the same industry, don't experience the same experiences? Would you be okay sharing those thoughts and feelings about your traumas at work with someone who doesn't understand?
no,
Okay.
not even close.
And the other thing is that recovery is possible outside of AA.
Oh,
You
100%.
don't need to go to AA. It's a great tool, but I like the fact that you didn't go because it shows that you can do it if you have the dedication and the purpose.
And I think having surrounding yourself with the right people, I
Mhm.
think is a huge, like that is monumental when you think about it. I mean, surrounding yourself with the right people that have the likewise mindset. Like I talked to you on the phone about losing a friend of mine. That that I the when we went to his celebrate his life, and they were like, "You want to drink?" No, because I know he would have come back from the grave and kicked my ass right there because he was a huge supporter of you're not drinking. And that was when I went cold turkey for, well, that was the better part of probably 12 months, close to 12 months. And that was because I lost a relationship because I was too much in the bottle. And it was 2 weeks before I was supposed to be married. And she just up and left. And that was the end of that. And I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I can't. I had 2 people in my house with me for 4 or 5 hours after she left because they were concerned I would do something. And after that, I said, you know what? I'll go out, but I'm not going to drink. And the bartender at the local bar we went to was also a very good friend of mine. And he said, I got you. You won't drink here, period. And he made it very well known to the rest of his staff he doesn't drink here. And that was the only place I went to because it was the only place I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Like it was a Sunday night karaoke night every night or well, not every night, but it almost felt like every night because we always had the jukebox going and everybody was always karaoke into the jukebox. But I mean, we stuck to the guns. It was, you're not doing it. And then, Sean unfortunately had a massive seizure that cost him his life. And we went to the bar. We met there first, went to say our goodbyes, came back, and everybody's like, "Hey, we're gonna do a shot for him." I was like, "I'll take a shot of water, or I'll take a shot of Coke, whatever."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "That's what Sean would want me to continue doing what I'm doing," and that I stuck to it.
I mean, that's one of the things that still, like, I think sometimes I still don't accept it. And like, I don't accept that I deserve it, is that the people that I thought that would be the most critical of my behaviors and my activities and my addiction happen to be the most supportive.
Right.
Like, you don't think of that. You think like, I'm just going to keep this to myself. I'm going to deal with it on my own because I don't want to bother other people. But meanwhile, these people want to help you. They want to help us. We don't give them a chance. We don't give them the opportunity to help.
No, we don't, and I think that's what took a lot of the stress out of things was the fact that I had my brother basically ground me. The threat of violence from your brother, especially, you know, you're tall, so you understand this. He's, about your height, but probably
Are
has.
you a tall hater?
No, 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 absolutely not. I think I find it funny because most of my friends are shorter than me. So like I walk up to him, I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And put my arm on your shoulder, and make fun of him or whatever. But he's about 6'2", 6'3", depending upon the convenience store he's walking out of that day, But no, I mean, he was a football player all through his life, was big in sports. So I mean, figure back then he was still muscular, still had some muscle mass to him, and he was, I feared him when we had that conversation because it was a different level of conversation, not like you and I right now just sitting here kind of BSing back and forth, but it was one of those like, this is your coming to Jesus, and that's basically what it took was that to happen, and then okay, so I went through one round of, hey, I'm not going to drink for a while. Obviously, I fell off that wagon, then reached out to my boss and said, I need help. And it's not going to end well if I don't get help. I know where this is going. I recognize what's happening. If I don't get help, I'm going to end up in a bag somewhere.
So what was the darkest it got for you? Like, we want to talk about rock bottom, right? But rock bottom has a basement. I mean, I've seen a shirt. It's got to be true. It says rock bottom has a basement. I mean, how low did you go?
The sub basement. I think that's probably the best there. It's not one of my defining moments of my life. Sitting down and actually realizing that there was a problem was, to me, on the second go around, I should say, realizing there was a problem, it was not a pleasant experience for me. And the reason for that was just because I had seen a couple of friends go, by suicide. One of them I just talked to, I talked to him the night before when I was on shift, coming to work the next day and find out that, that morning he had shot himself. Coworker of one of my steady partners came into work, um, didn't believe the email, thought it was like, okay, who's messing around? Like, this is a pretty sick joke. And then come to find out, no, this isn't a joke. This is actual reality. That was, there was some trauma there that I never really truly dealt with. I kind of let that go and let that build. And then I had a series of bad calls, followed by, I'm going to just drown them.
Mhm.
I don't want to deal with them. How do I deal with this? Okay, let's stop at the gas station down the street. I can buy a 12 pack of beer for, $10 and go home. And I was late to work. The night before, I had spent till about 2 o'clock in the morning just drinking, and being lost in my own bad place.
Your own self-imposed prison.
Solitary confinement, I think, what was probably a better place than where I was at.
So you dealt with some serious stuff,
Yeah,
friends killing themselves, a lot of things that led you into your rock bottom.
yeah. Being able to sitting there drinking that night before I reached out for help. I truly can say I hit rock bottom, and everybody's like, "How do you hit it in one night?" Well, it's pretty damn easy when you don't deal with your traumas and you just let it build.
That's the thing. Like, and I interrupt a lot and I
Oh,
apologize, but
you're good.
I
You're
mean,
good.
I personally think that there's two kinds of people in this world. There's people that inherently know how to deal with trauma, and there's people that don't. I was one of those people that never learned a healthy way to deal with trauma because, like most people, like my trauma just didn't come from the police department, right? Like I had a lot of trauma prior to that that had been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down for years. So, you know, not dealing with those things and failing to process the trauma, it's like a dumpster.
Hmm.
You just keep throwing shit in there until it gets full. And once it gets full, it's too late.
You're fucked.
Like you're straight fucked. Like, cause now everything's out.
Right.
And now you got to start picking the pieces up and trying to fucking fix your life.
And hope you can find a compactor to make it, give you some more room in a dumpster, or you got to go find somebody to trauma dump on.
I mean, for me, it was sitting in my apartment with my Glock 43 on my lap going, I've had enough, and, for those of you who get to that moment, like shit, reach out to me. I'll talk to you.
Yep.
I'm no therapist, but I'll put you in touch with anybody I can that can help you, rehab centers, whatever. But, I think one of the biggest things that we fail to realize as alcoholics and people that suffer from poor mental health is that we're really not that self-aware
No, we're not. We have not a
because
clue.
we don't have a clue what's actually going on with us. To me, addiction on a large scale is a sign of another problem that's deeper and more within that person, a mental health issue for me.
Right.
That's what it was for me.
I think it's a mental health issue. Actually, really, to think about it, probably 95% of the addiction,
Mhm.
I would say, is a mental health. The other 5%, it's hard to say what it could be. It could be a trigger of something, not necessarily a mental health issue, but when you think about it, a lot of them, when you look at our field, look at from when you were in the field, how many times did you go to that psych call that you got there and you went, there's really an issue. For one, you could tell they're addicted to stuff because you look at their meds, you look at their stuff, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, you battle some shit, you battle some demons, and then you see what the mental health community is doing for them. Take these meds.
I'm glad you didn't use the word system because there is no system.
No,
It's just let's deal with these idiots and put them away is how they think.
right.
You
I
know,
mean,
I mean, I was at numerous calls where I'm like, there's actually something wrong here,
oh yeah.
but then I also got to that point, like, I was like, I'd show up there and be like, this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, for me, one of the biggest signs that I was suffering was my loss of empathy,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
loss of sympathy for other people. You know, the traumas that I dealt with on the job, in combination with the things I dealt with outside the job, I became a very cold, calculated, unfeeling, and antisocial human being. Like,
In a way, that's not bad though. I mean, and I
to an
say
extent, right?
to an extent,
Yeah.
it's not bad because then you can go to that call that is not going to be that other people would break down, freeze up, or not want to get out of the car. Like they would just be their vision's right here, not seeing the whole picture. So you lose, I think, on the aspect of being cold, you maintain that very good situational awareness because you're completely detached. But the people that have that
Mm.
that are very much they get emotionally attached to things very easy. Their focus goes from here to here.
I think for me, it was more that my job was the only thing I had in my life that was good, that I was good at, that wasn't suffering. At least I didn't think it was suffering, right?
Right.
But like, I depended on my work to help me get through everything else. So, while I was at work, I thought I was doing a good job. I thought I was effective. But as soon as I walked to my car, that was gone. Now the lack of control, now the insane thoughts, now the depression and the anxiety and all the shit that I didn't want to deal with.
Before you even got out of the parking lot.
I mean, when I was a cop, luckily enough, I was a drunk, right?
Right.
But I wasn't the level of a drunk I was after I got divorced in 2020 and up until 2023.
Okay.
You know, in 2023, I was leaving work, going straight to Sheetz, 2 or 3 pounders of malt liquor, chugging those on the way home, and then killing a half gallon of whiskey or vodka or whatever I had in the house, and then getting, 8 or 9 hours of sleep and going back to work and doing it all over again every single day.
Okay.
And then my weekends were just round the clock drinking,
It's-
like no break.
That was where I was at prior to hitting rock bottom. And when I hit, I was at home drinking by myself, playing video games, doing what I do. And that was, I literally shut it off. I set the controller down. It was like, well, okay. And I just happened to send a text message.
I mean, it's amazing how it's these brief moments, and I'm not even going to say moments of clarity or epiphanies. It's these just shit happen for some reason. You didn't plan on it. This wasn't your game plan when you started drinking and playing video games that night.
Nope.
It was, I'm just going to do what I always do. But then something happened to flip the script. And it was like this little bell went off. Excuse me for a quick second.
I really wish I knew what the hell the bell was. I really, truly do. Because if I knew it, I could spread the word. Like, hey, this is what you're looking for.
I mean, how grateful. I know I'm amazingly grateful for the fact that I had that moment and I recognize that I had to do something. The thing is we get to that moment where we know we have to do something, but we don't know what it is, because going down that scary, dark path of recovery, not knowing what to expect, that's frightening for a lot of us to say, like, I'm going to give up everything I know and put my efforts into this hope
So
that I can fix myself.
I'm more grateful than I think I probably ever will admit. In that, one, it didn't cost me a job. Like it was, my boss recognized he needs help. We're going to be there for him. We're going to support him. And when he's done with his recovery and gets the help he needs, he's still going to have a job.
Yeah.
We're not going to exile him and sorry, you're no good to us. That's I think the first thing on there. The second thing, it didn't cost me friendships. It made friendships stronger. It made people realizing, hey, he doesn't have a problem stepping up saying, I have a problem. I need help. And those few people that knew, I'm still friends with to this day. One of them I still talk to relatively often, not as often as I'd like, but they're also in school. So I can't really necessarily just say, hey, let's hang out because they're in school a couple 100 miles away, but it's still, after that happened, the connection that I had with those folks just really solidified, and we maintained that great working relationship. And then, further down the line, I don't work there anymore because I found a better job, a better paying job. It is what it is. It wasn't I don't want to be here anymore because I don't like you. No, I went
Yeah.
where the money was at, and that's why I
Which
left.
is what a lot of people have to do in that industry.
Right. And that's basically where it came down to, was I wasn't necessarily, I went out of here because I don't like you anymore. I don't like anything that you're doing. No, it was more or less, I found a better paying job that was a little closer to home. So a little better schedule, but let's go for it. So I did. Otherwise, I'd still be there. I'd still be working there today.
I'm grateful that I'm not dead,
There's
because
that.
that's how dark my 3 stories below rock bottom got. Like, I wouldn't have my house, I wouldn't have my wife, I wouldn't have my dogs, like all these things that I've been given through the hard work that I do to stay sober and try to stay happy and deal with my mental health. Like, I wouldn't have any of these things because I was on a path where it was death or keep doing what I was doing.
Or death.
Like, I know that about me. Like, if I drink again, I'm going to kill myself. It's just, I know how dark that road gets, and I just can't ever do it again. Like, I even had issues having a non-alcoholic beer for the first time because I was like, is the taste going to throw me off? And then I reminded myself, I don't fucking drink beer. I'll be fine. I drink whiskey and vodka. So,
Right.
and, I think one of the things that is really important about you coming here today and talking about what you're dealing with is that you're still active.
Yeah.
as a first responder, and you're taking it on the chin
Every day.
every day, still dealing with the same things, the same types of calls, the same stressors, right? So, what do you do on a daily or a weekly or a monthly to maintain your mental health and to keep yourself from sliding back into the old bad habits?
So now it's really the drinking is more. I think getting that under control was the biggest thing. Getting the drinking under control was huge. And then once I got that under control and understood, hey, look, I don't need to go out and get hammered to have a good time. I go out and have a good time with anybody and just hang out, and shoot the shit and just have conversation about anything. I didn't care what it was. It could have been, let's talk about, you know, the Boston Yankees series, or let's talk about, the Pirates, how bad they suck and how bad Bob Nutty needs to sell the team. We could have those conversations, and I would have so much fun. And it was like, I could do this. Like I could, and my stressors now, yeah, they're still there, but I also work with a very, very good group of people now. We actually, a few of us have been friends for a number of years.
Mhm.
So the connection was actually a lot easier. We were able to meet and chat, and we're able to have conversation. We're able to sit there and, those bad calls we had, what can we do to make it better? Well, let's break down the call. Let's go over what we did. So there's more of a connection, not so necessarily with the trauma of that bad call, but how can we improve from that bad call so that we can recognize things later in life? So there's a lot more of a let's talk about
It
it.
sounds like there's a healthier foundation than just being coworkers.
Correct.
Like there's a true and honest concern for each other,
Yes, 100%.
which I think is very hard to find in first responders.
So I just got back to work. Just got released to work. Go back to work today. I had a knee injury from a fire a couple weeks ago, and when I was
Did you get away?
I did.
Okay.
um, but when we were talking back and forth, I sent the notice that hey, I'm not allowed to work till I see an orthopedic surgeon, just to make sure I didn't need to have surgery. Cool. I had text messages almost every day from bosses. Hey, how you doing? How's your knee? You doing okay? Do you need anything? Where do you find that?
Not at the City of Pittsburgh Police Department.
And then I sent the email this morning. I got the notification. Of course, sent the few notifications I needed to send prior to that out, and then sent it to work. Said, I'm cleared, effective right now. I work tomorrow. We're back to normal. A text message, an email, and a phone call. All from them saying, hey, welcome back. Glad it worked out. Glad you didn't have any problems. Glad we were able to get you back. Where else? I mean, what other place can you go to? And that to me makes it feel like it's a family, not just a job.
Yeah, you are a very lucky man. You are a very lucky man, because when I left the city, I remember I went in on the daylight shift at a narcotics office to clean out my desk. There's maybe like 7 or 8 people in there, and not a single person even said goodbye.
Now, see, that would make me.
That led to a lot of drinking.
That led to a lot of
drinking. I was angry for a long time. I mean, I talked to one guy who's a good friend of mine who I went to the academy with. We talk on a fairly regular basis. There's another gentleman that I met through working with the city that he texts me, and then we talk for a day or two, and then, we just go back to our lives.
Right.
That's our relationship. But other than that, I have people that were in my wedding that were cops that I don't talk to anymore. I had partners that don't call me anymore. Literally, I talked to 2 people out of a department that was around 800 when I was there. And, I knew a lot of people. Like, I met a lot of people through that job, but I had like 10 or 15 that I talked to on a regular that didn't respond to phone calls, didn't respond to text messages. Actually, one of them, when I sent him a text when I first started this podcast, a guy that I thought was my friend sat there and goes, "Oh, this is what he does now. He's just trying to draw more attention to himself." That was basically the response I got.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, that led to a lot of drinking. Like the feeling like the 12 years that I worked next to these people didn't fucking matter.
Except the 2 people.
2 people. And one of them is a recovering alcoholic.
So there's relatable.
So we have a much stronger relationship,
right,
based in our recovery. I don't know if we'd still talk if he was not. because this guy helped me when I came home from recovery. Like when I came home from rehab and came out of the safe bubble after being gone for 47 days and was completely losing my shit. Like, cause I didn't know how to live sober,
Right.
and he's still there. And, we both go through our struggles, but we have a much deeper relationship, and thank God for him because, when I came home, if it wasn't for him, like I probably would have relapsed within the first couple days.
He kept you grounded.
I knew he'd been through it. I knew he'd been through the shit. Like he'd been through the battlefield of addiction. And folks, it is a fucking war.
A war that I hate saying it, the vast majority never win.
The casualty rate is so high in this war. It's a war of attrition. He who fights longer and harder wins. And the devil and addiction and poor mental health have unlimited resources.
Mm-hmm. And no matter what you do, there's always, I know it's coming. And that the sad part is admitting it. I know it's coming. It's going to happen again. There's going to be that one trigger that causes the let's go down that.
Causes a needle to shift.
Let's make that right instead of staying, or I'm sorry, make that left instead of staying to the right on that right path. Let's make that quick left turn. I know it's coming. It's going to happen again. But the question is, are my resources I built since rock bottom still going to be there when that sudden left turn pops up?
Well, I'm going to venture to say that you will make the right decision because the fact that you already know that that's going to happen, you're already preparing yourself for that day.
And that's why I said that circle is about this big.
So if you build the foundation brick by brick with determination, hard work, and hope, you have a much better chance of surviving, and I mean surviving as in staying sober or off of any drug, maintaining good mental health, and enjoying the rest of your life. Because if you do the first two, but you don't have the third, you're just an addict or a person with poor mental health that's lying to themselves.
Yep. 100%.
Like that's the thing is my life has become a very beautiful place to live. I love what I do. I love getting to talk to people like you. Like I just had an interview with Sheldon Ingram from Channel 4 News.
Yeah. Where else do you get
like, what the fuck? Like, why did you want to talk to me? I'm an idiot, but, Sheldon and Channel 4 doing this series on this mini series. I think it's going to be 3 parts on mental health and first responders. And I can't wait to see it. It's going to be amazing. And I want to thank Sheldon. Thank you for doing this because a lot of people don't want to touch this subject and I appreciate you bringing it to light.
But and the sad part is even though it's getting brought to light and it's nothing to downplay what he's doing because what he's doing is really opening the eyes.
It's what we're doing on a larger scale.
And it's going to open a lot more eyes. But when you think about it, he's here in this journey. We need to be leaps and bounds ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He's taken a Band-Aid off of something that should have been ripped off 10 years ago. And people are going to realize the system's fucked. The system is truly broke in that we expect the best of the best when you call 911, whether it's police, fire, EMS, God forbid, anything else other than that. You expect the best of the best to show up. But when it's over, we expect them to go back. There's another one for you to take. Hey, there's another call for you to take.
And
you're expected to get back on that rig
and be 100% 5 minutes later.
And it doesn't happen. There's not the decompression. Yes, when we have a big incident, the SISM team comes out. The SISM team I will 100% vouch for because they're the ones who I reached out to first.
Mm-hmm.
After my boss, that was the next group I talked to. Fantastic group of people. The problem is, what happens when there's 2 incidents that happen at the same time in the same area?
Or a mass incident like the 4409 shooting where the 3 cops got murdered and you've got the entire city of police officers to deal with.
Right. There's not enough of the resource. Something that, let's go back to 2009. I'm not trying to rip open that wound again because that's painful for a lot of folks. But then there was a need for it. Then let's fast forward Tree of Life.
Mm-hmm.
How many hundreds of folks were there? I was in the staging area with a bunch of my EMS coworkers and EMS cohorts from other services. I use the example of duck on water because it's the best description I can give. We all were standing there laughing, joking, like you and I sitting here right now, laughing and joking, having a good time, having a good conversation. But underneath, we knew what the hell was going on. We were the legs going 1,000 miles an hour underwater inside. Outside, you could have been walking up and down the street like, look at these jokers sitting there cracking jokes.
Dark humor.
But that's how we got along. That's how we get along with things. That's how we do things. We go to EMS is always famous for making the joke. We go to a cardiac arrest. You're pumping on the chest, and you're sitting there going, all right, what's for lunch after? Where are we going for lunch? Or where are we going for dinner? And you're in the middle of doing CPR. It's a dark humor joke that's made a lot, but it's how we deal with things. Yeah, we're sitting there having a conversation about this, listening to the active gunfire a block away from us.
Mm-hmm.
And what was done after that? Oh, hey, do you need it? We got back to the station. My unit from that got back to the station. The supervisor was right there. What do you need? You go, okay. What did you see? What did you hear? Wanted to talk about it. My boss at that point in time personally called both of us that were there. That's a sign of a great leader. But none of us would have left that place if he didn't leave to go to PA school. I love the man to death. He would get the shirt off my back. He moved on. When he moved on, company went downhill. Everybody left. All the good people left because we were there not for the job. We were there for the manager.
I think a lot of times people that want to pursue a career in being a first responder don't know what they're in for.
Nope.
They truly don't know. Like, listen, if you do it long enough, you're going to see somebody fired, disciplined, wounded, killed, commit suicide, demoted, promoted that they shouldn't. Like, you're going to see a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But the steadfast rule is somebody's going to die that you work with. Somebody's going to get hurt that you work with. Somebody's going to get fired. 4409, 3 officers got killed in that shooting. There was a 4th that committed suicide that nobody knows about.
I didn't know about it until you told me that the other day on the phone.
In relation, I believe it was in relation to that subject. But yeah, I mean, it's the ripple effect that these traumas have indirectly and directly on the people involved directly and the people around them. It doesn't just affect you or me. Now it affects your family. It affects your friends. It affects your relationships because, once you throw a stone in a lake, you can't stop that until it's done.
Right. That ripple goes until the other
it
side
goes
of the water.
until it ends.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's a roller coaster for all the people around you.
And that's the thing is like the people that are directly involved in an incident that are right there, that small group out of the 500 that might have been there, that 50 is what everybody focuses on. They forget the ripple effect. They forget the outside effect of that. We could look at countless incidents that happened over the years of things where there probably should have been a SISM activation, but they never did it, or they did it for a select few, but not everybody. So I think the mental health system, if you want to call it a system, community, is beyond broken when it comes to the public safety aspect because we focus on let's help the people that don't do this every day. Let's focus on our system is so broken that we can't fix the people that are in it now. So how can we worry about the people that deal with it daily, that deal with it, that go from call to call to call? How do we do that? We don't. I've brought up saying, hey, we need to teach this in training when they're in a program, in an EMT class, in a paramedic class, in the police academy. It needs to be hit on for more than 10 minutes. And I get told there's not enough time for it.
When I came home from rehab in 2023, I reached out to Cranberry Township up north, and I reached out to the city of Pittsburgh and the police departments and said, hey, I'm willing to come talk to your new recruits about the dangers of undiagnosed mental health and addiction and what it can do to an officer's productivity and to their state of mind. And it was like, great idea. We'll get back to you.
Still waiting for a phone call, aren't you?
I'm never getting that phone call ever.
Yeah. I brought it up when I was on with Bart and Brittany.
You know why? Because they want to pretend it doesn't exist. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They want to pretend that this issue of poor mental health doesn't exist because when you become a cop or a fireman or a paramedic, you choose to handle the rough calls. You choose to deal with that. Yes, we do. but we didn't sign up to fucking be mentally ill.
Right.
We didn't sign up knowing what was going to happen to us if we didn't take care of ourselves. That's something you don't learn. And like you said, a quick 30-minute block in your academy training about, hey, keep good mental health. You got the CISM program. You got an EAP. All right. If you need anything else, just call this guy. That's not enough.
No.
Until you kill somebody or yourself or, drive a police car into a school full of children, the departments don't want to know you're sick. They don't want to know you're not well, because once they know it, now they got to come to terms and say, you know what? We know this is a problem. Now we have to do something because this person did this, this, and the other. As long as major events aren't happening with people that are suffering from addiction or mental health, as long as we're not doing anything crazy, it's just status quo.
Right.
Nothing changes.
And the sad part is like I said, I brought it up to Bart. Brittany talked to a couple people that are in the position of knowing and in the position of we could make these changes and we could push this into the program. There's not enough time in the program to add 4 hours. There's not enough time to maintain you're only in school for this long.
But they'll add a 4-hour block on gender appreciation and using the right pronouns.
Right. Or they'll add a 4-hour block for being able to read and write correctly. They'll add a 4-hour block to be able to understand, or we'll do an 8-hour symposium on just a random group of people coming in and talking, and how can we handle the stresses of working as a new provider, and not necessarily focus on in 5 years. This is, you've seen XYZ. How can we fix this? Or, hey, how can we have better team skills?
I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to they don't want to spend the money, because taking care of your officers, your paramedics, your EMTs, your firemen is a costly venture. To put the programs in place and to maintain them so that people have all the options that they need, like you said, we're here when we need to be over here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's always going to be the same argument. It's going to be, we don't have time and we don't have money. But yet, you throw this money into completely ridiculous blocks of training that mean nothing.
Or not even necessarily training. They throw that money into bike lanes.
Or, Corey O'Connor takes the money and defunds the police.
Or, it's bike lanes, it's other improvement projects.
How many people use the bike lane still to this day?
I hate them.
I mean, you tied up the traffic in downtown Pittsburgh to give people a dedicated lane to ride their bikes, and nobody fucking uses them.
No, they still use a sidewalk.
They still ride on the fucking sidewalk. Like, this is the kind of shit that big departments do. Like they do what they can to satisfy the kink in the chain. Somebody bitching and pissing and moaning about some stupid shit. They'll, like when, and I apologize for saying this, but people like Ricky Burgess, when he was councilman down in Homewood, would sit there and everything was racial. Everything was racial. Everything was racial. And it's like, it's not. There's problems in your area because it's got a little bit more poverty. It's got less employment rate. There's a lot of other things going on. And just because a cop goes into an area and it's predominantly black, so the crimes are going to be committed on a larger scale by the ethnicity that lives there.
Right.
So like you go to Squirrel Hill, your crime is going to be, Jewish people, white people, college kids, the occasional minority doing something. But when you go to Homewood, it's going to be, the scale's going to be so much higher.
Right.
And it's not like the cops are fingering people. It's when you have more of one person, one ethnicity in an area, that's going to skew the numbers, and granted, I'll probably cut this whole fucking section out anyway, but, I think that the fact that, on the law enforcement aspect, they feel like they have no backing. They feel like they have no support.
But when you hearing your story and hearing your side of things, there really isn't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want people to go, boo-hoo, Mark had a bad day. Ooh, his life was difficult. No, that's not what it's about. It's about the fact that my circumstances could have been different if I, as a human being and a responsible human being, would have taken responsibility for my actions and done something about it. But I also didn't think that I could.
And when you look at it as a mental health aspect as a whole, the amount we're doing now is leaps and bounds ahead of where we were 5 years ago for that matter.
Mhm.
When I admitted I had a problem and went to my boss, if I'd have done that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it would have been call EAP. That would have been it.
Mhm.
Now it's here's a CISM team, here's people you could talk to, here's local people you could talk to, not some schmuck that's in, Nebraska that has no clue about our area, our demographics, our issues we deal with. So that right there, having the local tie to having the ability to have conversation, I think helps out a lot. But it's not enough. It's not where we should be for what we know. And really, the biggest takeaway, I think, is look at what the military is doing or realizing they admitted there's a problem. They admitted they fucked up, that they weren't taking care of their people. They're trying to fix it. We still haven't made it to the point of admitting. Right? And that's, I think, the biggest when we finally get to that point, that's when it's going to finally change.
I mean, I think, there's people out there that say there is no stigma against being an addict or an alcoholic or having poor mental health as a first responder. And I have to wholly disagree with that. I mean, there's a stigma that we impose on ourselves, number one. There's the stigma that says that I can't ask for help because I'll be considered weak or ineffective or I will lose trust. But then there's a negative reinforcement that's indirectly pushed on the members of these agencies in the ignorance of not admitting that this is a problem. It is a problem. There is a stigma. When you go to your boss and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic in a department of 800 people, I'm not going to say that they're going to treat you like shit, but they're going to know, and then you're looking over your shoulder, wondering if they're thinking you're drinking or wondering if they think you're having a meltdown or wondering if they think you're stable to be there. It's a very hard thing for us to get the help we need because we're scared to ask for help. It's a fear. It's an unreasonable fear.
It's an irrational fear or irrational fear.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get the help we need. If you push hard enough, you're going to get the help you need. Like I said, when I got sober in 17, my insurance company said I wasn't sick enough. That shows where we were in 17.
Right.
Even after I told them how much I was drinking.
Yeah. 2 weeks.
And that comes back on what my therapist said, what my counselors were saying. Like, listen, this second time I went to rehab, let me tell you a story about counseling. My primary therapist was a former law enforcement officer, and she kept cutting me off while I was talking. You know how that goes with a cop. I looked her dead in the eyes. I said, don't fucking do that. And she's like, do what? I said, stop fucking interrupting me. I'm trying to tell you what's going on and you keep shutting me down. She's like, well, I hear something important and I want to address it right away. I said, well, that doesn't go well with me.
Right.
And it was like a very awkward, very uncomfortable moment because she was like, this guy might be crazy. He might snap. But then let me tell you what, she didn't interrupt me anymore.
No, then she let you be.
But I mean, that was the thing. Like, it's that thing where when you get people that go from law enforcement or first responders to being a therapist, just being a member of that society doesn't mean that they're going to be good at it.
No.
You know what I mean? Like
that's like, so there was always the running joke. When you went to paramedic class, I mean, my one boss told me this and we were joking about it, but at the same time, it's scary to think about. If you score a 76 on the test, what's that make you? Still a paramedic. Compared to that person who might have scored 100 on the test. 100's a little far-fetched, but, still, person that scores a 95 on the test, you're still the same title as the person that scored a 76 on the test. But that person that scored the 76 on the test is the person you want showing up to your door. The reason I say that, and which goes kind of against the whole, hey, I got my therapy license, I'm a therapist now. Cool, I took it on Google. I just Googled how to get a therapy license, and boom, I'm a therapist now. When you have that person that got the 76, they're great at operations. Operations is where we shine. Is where they're huge. They're up here compared to that person who's a 95. At 95%, they could treat the shit out of you because they know what they're doing. They read the book. Cool. That person got the 76, knows how to treat you effectively and get you out of the house and get you to the hospital. They know how to do all the things, whereas this person down here is struggling. So having that therapist that has no clue is that 95 percenter. Yeah, they're great. They got their therapy license. I'm grateful for them. I want the therapist that got the 76 and still got their therapy license because they've been through, they understand their struggle to get to that. Their struggle to get to that end goal. They understand they may not have been the best student. I'd rather have the not best student taking care of my mental health, taking care of my family member, because that to me is somebody who actually needed to try in school. It wasn't just, oh, cool, here's the book, flip through it, skim through it, 100% on the test. Okay, cool, you're super smart, but let me give you a problem. They look at you like you got 12 heads.
See, I was kind of I was the 75. You know, I got a decent score on the certification exam, but I had done drugs before I became a cop. I had, been in trouble before. I had made bad decisions. So, you know, every time I took a test at the academy, it was like, this is 100,000 a year test. If I fail this test, I'm gone. Whereas the people that just walk through it, it wasn't hard for them. They didn't have the same mentality as I had. My mentality was like, I have to do this. Like, I have to do better.
Hmm.
I have to learn everything because I know I'm not as smart as this guy, you know?
And that guy that we're pointing at, that guy's now wearing a white shirt, or he's got stars or extra stars on his shirt now because
Oh, get me
he
started.
could take a test.
Let's not even go there today because, this last round of promotions that I heard about from the city was kind of a joke. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for a while, so we're going to kind of wind this down. Um, if you had some piece of golden knowledge to give somebody out there that's either struggling with mental health or addiction or whatever the problem is, you know, what have you learned in your journey that you think might be something that could help someone else?
You're going to hit rock bottom, and you're not going to know you hit rock bottom. Um, that's the scary part. You don't understand when you hit that basement floor. You go to the sub basement, like where we've been. That's when you're like, shit, my dumpster's full. My dumpster's now on fire. Whatever. Don't hesitate to reach out to somebody. It doesn't have to be a superior. It doesn't have to be a therapist. Reach out to that person you trust, that you that knows you have, they understand that you have an issue. They're not there to make you better. They're there to guide you. They're there to be there for you. My best friend to this day is that guy, because he understands where I was at. I was one of the first ones I called when I said, "Hey, I'm going to see a therapist now. This is what's going on." That man every day sends me a text message. How you doing? How's life? We may not be more than that, but every day we have conversation. There's some sort of funny video, funny meme shared back and forth just to have communication. Hey, I know you still exist. Surround yourself with those people and use them. Take it to your advantage. Otherwise, we're going to read about you in the paper. And that's, I think, truly, I still have the connection with those people. I've mentioned numerous times now that my circle is super small. He's the main person in that circle because he's been there. He's been there since, for me, day one. And he's the guy I go out with now still. We'll go out. Hey, let's go have a couple drinks. Okay. He knows my limit. He knows when he says a couple, I'll have two or three. That is it. I'm not going out. Hey, let's find the bottom of this bottle. Let's find the bottle of the next one, or the bottom of the next one. We're not in it for that. We'll sit on his back porch. We'll have a cooler full of beer. Like, we're planning a whole day just to hang out, stay in his house that night. I'm not driving home. We'll stay at his house and play video games. We'll literally sit there and run down the street to get Mountain Dews, or have his wife run down the street and get a whole bunch of Mountain Dews and stuff. And what are we doing? We're sitting on his couch playing Call of Duty or something. That's having those people, I think, and realizing you need those people in your life is going to be huge. It's just, I can't describe in words how that feels, having those people that I can just call and say, hey, having a shit day. They're at my house in 20 minutes. I don't care where they're at. They're at my house in 20 minutes. If not, they calling somebody to be at my house in 20 minutes. And it's just like, where else do you find that? But having that very core group of people, surround yourself with that core group of people is, I think, the biggest takeaway once I hit rock bottom and started on the upward is I need to have that. I have that core group. I didn't realize it. I was stupid. Obviously, I'm not trying to say I was bad for not realizing it, but I didn't realize it until that rock bottom hit. And it just took one eye opening event. One, I have a problem. And those people stayed. The ones that stay are the ones that are going to matter the most in a year, in 6 months. Hell, it could matter. They're going to matter tomorrow and they're going to matter the next day. And it's just going to keep going. You'd be amazed the relationships you can build.
Well, I appreciate you coming here today and talking to people. I think you have a lot more to say.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot more in
I
there.
think you have a lot more to say. So I would love to have you back on, sometime down the road, and let's hear your full story.
Okay.
I think today was very important to talk about what we talked about and the differences and the similarities that we've gone through. Folks, this is John Lucas, an amazing human being and a fellow warrior in recovery. Please remember that you're never alone and that there's always a seat for you here at the round table. You can check us out on multiple social media platforms, Steel City Roundtable at gmail.com and steelcityroundtablepodcast.com. That's our website. But we love you guys and can't wait to talk with you again. Be safe.